Joining me now from Washington, D.C., former U.S. Marine and behavioral expert, Eric Rittmeyer. Eric, governments and the mainstream media. Government reaction and the mainstream media just perpetuating this panic. This seems to be the self-fulfilling prophecy element, at least for me, that's driving me absolutely nuts. And then you get this response out in the public that is completely irrational. Have you ever seen in our society, in your life, have you ever seen this kind of response?
It's pure insanity, Graham, and I got to tell you what really scares me the most is our poor children. I mean, they're really the ones who are catching the brunt end of this. I mean, it's a horrifying situation for them. You know, I think like this. I think like every generation kind of goes through their catastrophic events. You think about our generation, I think about 9/11. That was our catastrophic event. For a lot of kids right now, they're experiencing that. I mean, they're horrified. They're hearing things, they're seeing things, they're getting information from sources that are not reliable. They're getting it from social media where kids are chewing on Tide Pods. It's crazy. They're
never going to invest in the stock market in their lives after, this panic that's been going on. You and I both know that this is probably a wonderful buying opportunity, that most stocks are on sale right now, right? They're about a third off. And if you ever thought about buying Apple or Tesla, these are pretty good opportunities. And this is not a stock show, but my point is this, is that, we have a continuum of life to look back on and know that we will recover from this. We did it from 2008, 2009. We'll do it again now. But young children, your point is very well taken. And the psychological damage that I'm seriously worried about. So I've kind of broken it down, Eric, into 4 phases of what I call the Corona syndrome, if you will, the Corona lockdown syndrome. And so these are people that are stuck, right? People like in California and in New York now. Phase 1 is panic. Phase 2 is, okay, I'm going to have to deal with it. And then phase 3 is the danger zone, right? It's depression. And phase 4, which is even worse, potentially, and that is the long-lasting damage. Phase 1, the panic. I guess we shouldn't be too terribly surprised at some of what we're seeing because this is, part of what can be human nature, right?
Well, this is our society as a whole, Graham. You look at everything, it's the outrage culture, I call it. I mean, we look for things to totally blow out of proportion. And by all means, I do believe what we need to do is we have to be safe, we have to be protected. But, this whole social distancing thing, I think it should be more like physical distancing. So you can physically be apart and still remain emotionally attached, socially attached to people, especially in this day and age of FaceTime and things like that. So yeah, that's a very scary piece of it when everybody goes into freak out mode, especially the children who haven't had a chance to build up the resiliency that you and I have to understand that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, and so then you go into the, okay, I'm going to deal with it phase, I'm going to watch Netflix, and then you run out of Netflix movies to watch, then you go into the depression phase. I mean, let's face it. This is not normal. It's abnormal activity. So what do you do to try and combat the depression phase? Because it's going to happen, especially when you have governors like Newsom out there saying, hey, you're quarantined, you're under house arrest indefinitely. At least a bank robber knows when he's going to get out of jail.
Yeah, I think we have to remain in touch with reality here, and we have to be able to separate fact from truths. And, a fact is a fact. If it's 75 degrees outside, that's a fact. A truth is a perception. So your perception might be that it's hot if you're from Alaska, but it's cold if you're from Florida. So what we have to do is we have to continue to analyze these things that we're hearing and seeing and reading and deep down think, okay, is this fact-based or is this just somebody trying to stir the pot? Because if not, we will go absolutely batty.
And so then we look at phase 4, and that is the long-term potential damage that, maybe some people won't recover from this. And I don't want to give examples because I don't want to speculate here, but I do know this. There's been a study, isolated people in Switzerland. They studied this, and they came up with some, not so great conclusions here. And among them was social isolation is not only detrimental to general, mental, and cardiovascular health, but it's also musculoskeletal health. In other words, it can cause both psychological and physical damage if people don't stay both physically and mentally active in situations like this.
You're absolutely right. And again, I go back to the kids, Graham. I mean, we have to be extremely concerned for our children. And as parents, we have to step up to the plate here to understand that we are directly in control of what gets through to our children. We need to be the front line who is separating fact from fiction for our kids, because it's horrifying for them. The things they're reading, that there's no food left. We're going to be shut down in school for the next 3 years. They have to get the words directly from the horse's mouth. As parents, it's time for us to step up, because kids are going to have some long-term adverse effects from this, unfortunately.
And as big kids, what we need to do is, if we're on lockdown and you want to abide by it, which I don't necessarily agree with, but if you want to abide by it on lockdown, then turn off the news. Don't watch some of this wall-to-wall coverage that tells you the sky is falling, because these are the people that are stoking the panic out there that we're trying to mitigate. Eric, thank you.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.